Okay, so after today, it is my intention that you are going to be able to write your own, create your own, prompt your own advertorials, and start making more money today, or start making money today, literally today, not days from now, not weeks from now, but actually today. So the whole idea behind this process, it really has nothing to do with copy. Not really, not right off the bat. What these are literally conversations to create context, to train an account so that you know who you're writing for, why, and more importantly, what the positioning is. Because if you don't have the right positioning, then the copy does not matter. It literally is worthless, worth less. In other words, it makes infinitely less, if any, money. And that's what's happening right now with most people prompting. Most business owners, affiliates, and copywriters are struggling to do this because they don't understand the fundamentals of positioning. And if you don't understand the fundamentals of positioning and what makes positioning effective, then you are gambling. If you are a business owner, you are gambling with having a home, gambling with having food. If you're a copywriter, you're gambling with your career and actually being able to make people money. Sorry, my dog just whacked me in the nose just before this. That's why I'm bleeding. So if you understand positioning, then you can start creating these advertorials, and not just advertorials, assessments, quizzes, landing pages, ads, VSLs, upsells, the whole shebangs. And you're going to be able to do it quickly. I literally create pages that make me money in 5 minutes. And that's not an exaggeration. So if you want to be able to do that, please pay attention because the world has changed. It's not changing. Marketing has changed. People who are saying, I've never seen AI copy in the wild actually convert. Just like yesterday, I made a video for one of the people in copy prompting, responding to about the company Grunes that sold for $1.2 billion off the back of very generic copy, but copy that is positioned well. They positioned themselves as a complement to GLPs. So if you are a complement to GLPs rather than what I did in the supplement space, and a lot of people did in the supplement space, using GLPs as symbols to, hey, instead of this GLP, which causes gastric paralysis, how about this supplement, which has the same mechanism, but has a completely different effect on your overall health? And that worked really, really well. The problem is there's a lot of people who just don't want to give up on GLPs because they work. So, what if you surf that wave instead of trying to create a juxtaposition? So, in this positioning, this is a former client. He has the company C Infinite Age, and this is the product CMOS Advanced. So, here's an example of positioning. I took the idea of what Grunes did and I doubled down on it to create an advertorial that is directed at people taking GLPs but don't like the side effects of slow gastric emptying, and then somewhat scaring them with the idea of gastric paralysis, which is not something that is just like, oh, never ever gonna happen, right? No, it can absolutely happen, and it happens to a lot of people. And in fact, as I talk about it, one of the things missing from this advertorial would be true informed consent, that doctors are actually telling people what the side effects are and the commonality of them, which is far more common than most doctors know. Therefore, I would be adding to this advertorial how to advocate for yourself, which is a movement in the United States, that you need to start advocating for yourself and not just listening to your doctor or trusting that your doctor knows what's up. I'll give you an example of that in my real life. I took citalopram for 9 years. It's an SSRI that was prescribed to me by a rheumatologist for the psychological side effects of lupus and Sjogren's disease, the psychological effects of being in a body that's constantly inflamed and hurts all the time. It wears down our will to live. And so I didn't have that problem until I was prescribed the citalopram. The citalopram literally in any SSRI literally causes adaptation where the brain adapts to the drug and molds itself around the drug, which means that you literally are going to see a metamorphosis, a mutation of your personality, which is not something that doctors are aware of. Hey, Carl. Yeah, no worries. Any questions, just type them in. So that's from a lack of informed consent, that I did not know what the true side effects of SSRIs were and are. And only now is that becoming a reality, to the point of I created an ebook that I haven't started marketing yet, but this book, and I want to add more to it. That's one of the reasons. But I created this landing page for it that's already ready to go. And again, I did this in less than 20 minutes. And these are screenshots from my TikTok health files, where I talked about the damaging effects of SSRIs and used that as social proof until I get actual testimonials for the book itself. And that's another thing. I want to get it into people's hands. And I just haven't created a post where I'm saying, hey, I want to give this away to 20 people in exchange for your story and testimonial, if you like it, if you feel like you got value out of it, and add that in. Right? So there's lots of ways to use Claude to literally start making money today. Now, going back to positioning, I'm telling Claude in this thread, and I'll share this thread in the post once I post the recorded class, that positioning is where everything starts in terms of creating advertorials that aren't just generic AI slop. And here's the thing about that. You can actually get away with a lot of generic AI slop when you are positioned correctly. And I want you to think about positioning like a radio dial. If you are trying to find 102.3, that's the radio station that you like, but you're tuned in to 97.3, what are you going to hear? But if you can move the dial to 102.3, then you are going to resonate with the people at that frequency. That's what positioning is. Resonating with people where they are, the frequency they're at. So just imagine that you're trying to fine tune that dial in this process so that you are resonating with people telling that story. Because when you are resonating with people telling that story, you achieve self-identification, people raising their hands saying, yes, that is me. So here, then I'm talking about small differences that I didn't include. For instance, blind versus transparent. What would a blind advertorial, and you can see copy example demonstrating, versus transparent advertorial, you can see copy demonstrating. This is for fat of the land potato chips. There are three ingredients: beef tallow, salt, potatoes. That's it. Now, the whole positioning is against seed oils, natural flavors, artificial flavors, MSG. All of those things are in 99% of potato chips that you buy at the grocery store. These are not available in the grocery store. So, what am I doing here? I'm using I'm using symbols. So symbols could be as simple as a blurred out Doritos bag, or even just using the bag kind of transparently, or using the Doritos look and feel and kind of altering it and just saying, or those are corn chips, whatever Lays, right? Whatever has the seed oils in it. And then what are symbols, that would get people more invested, right? Where did this begin? Does it have a smoking gun? And the answer is yes, there is a smoking gun. And the smoking gun is when food companies lobbied to make seed oils safer than saturated fats. Because before seed oils, and here's what's in the seed oils, this is one of the main omega 6s. Um, the food companies lobbied to help, make the American Heart Association claim that seed oils are safer than saturated fats, which clog the arteries. The problem with that is that seed oils cause way more inflammation and are unstable when you use them in high heat. What do you need to do to potatoes to make them chips? You fry them in high heat. So what happens? They mutate, they become denatured, right? So let's actually add that into, so potato chips
Is that beef tallow?
need to be
It's a good.
fried, and
It's a
seed
good beef
oils
tallow cause.
denature, degrade at high heat, causing the uh, uh, causing more omega 6s. Is this true? And what are the aging effects of this, right? So let's just say, we're talking about accelerated aging. We could, if you look at potential archetypes, and here are some of them, and let me see if it's in here. Yeah, parents. Parents who should feel guilty giving their kids chips that are essentially pouring inflammation into their bodies and causing health problems that never needed to exist. How many parents are going to feel compelled to raise their hands to that? Because are we tapping into parental guilt in a way that moves the needle? Okay. Well, we have to overcome objections, because successful lobbying, and remember, copy prompting is context training. I don't know the answer to that. Or what I do know the answer. I don't know what Claude's going to say. Um, Beef tallow, yeah, saturated fats can be unhealthy. When you eat it in moderation, because it doesn't denature, it doesn't degrade at high heat, it doesn't have the oxidative effect, right? So no, hardly any oxidative effect. Um, it's mostly oleic acid. Contains fat soluble body function, immune support. Okay, so there's some good things. Okay. Um, it doesn't raise LDL. That's the bad cholesterol, the way that people think. Um, okay. There's some potential for plaque. Okay. High intakes. Okay. Well, that's subjective for people, but high, I mean, if you're eating a bag a day, that's just gluttony, anyways, right? We're not supposed to eat that much fried food, period, no matter what it's fried in. However, the damaging effects of seed oil seem to be much, much worse. Maybe benign. Okay. Okay. So now, because we know that there is a conspiracy here, well, actually, let's do it like this. So, again, remember, before you prompt for your actual advertorial and don't just get generic AI dribble, slop, you have to train your thread. Now, my account is trained in the heuristics, all of the heuristic puzzle pieces, all of the uh, chemicals, the dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, cortisol, the awareness levels, all those types of things are built in. So I'm right off the bat more likely to get slop that is likely to convert when most people's accounts aren't. So remember, how you training your account, how you train a thread matters greatly to how well positioning is harnessed, leveraged, so that you can connect with the most people. Okay. Ansel Keys, uh, there's a face. If you wanted to put a face to, and I've done videos on him before, if you want to put a face to how toxic the American food supply is, he's a good person to focus on. And also, if you don't get an answer you like, you ask it differently. You say it differently. You push back. Yeah, he didn't invent them. He didn't manufacture. He was the And again, the more context, then the images we add, the charts, the graphs that we create, all of those things have more impact. If you do not have proper positioning and framing and hook people with your positioning right by, in that headline, in that first line, getting to the value proposition of what this conversation is and why it has immediate consequence impact in my life. That's where the urgency comes from. Okay. So he lobbied that saturated fat was the blame. And then Crisco, yeah. Procter and Gamble. Now, I do know that this conversation has just legs just in terms of content. I have gotten in a single post about this. I have gotten 582 comments about this conversation. People are outraged when they understand that the FDA, that's the thing about this conversation. You're an investigative reporter as an affiliate, as a offer business owner, a seller, as they say now, as a copywriter who is advocating for business owners and affiliates. And by the way, writing for affiliates, helping affiliates with this is a huge opportunity because, and also a huge opportunity for you to take advantage of. Like, for instance, this company, Fat of the Land, they offer an affiliate program. You sign up for their affiliate program. You start making content on YouTube, TikTok around this. Let's say you already have 1,000 followers on TikTok and you have your link up on YouTube. You can get natural, organic clicks onto your link, and you can start selling today. You can start using a small budget to build up your Meta account and start selling Fat of the Land potato chips today. So the idea that you can, using what I'm talking about here, doing what I'm doing here with these advertorials, and you'll see more in a second, to test, hyper test. But we do 5 in the same positioning, 5 with alternative positioning. And let's say we set them at $10 a day, $20 a day. It's relatively doable for most advertisers. If you just set aside $1,000, $1,500 for ad spend and are intelligent in giving, say, Andromeda, the meta algo, the cross triangulation of your positioning points. Let's just say at least 3 solid positioning points with 10 UX alternatives each. UX alternatives meaning new first line, headline, if it's a thumbnail, a different thumbnail, or the same thumbnail with different text. Whatever they're seeing visually is the UX. And there are lots of ways to get the most out of a positioning point and an angle with UX testing. So if you aren't UX testing, you aren't testing. If you're testing 5 different advertorials, but no UX testing, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So you have to be meticulous about this. My clients, whether it's full I'm writing for them or write with you, it's doing this together or me doing it for you that makes the content, the assets work longer and avoid creative fatigue. So we're not just converting, we're converting for a longer period of time because of how we're leveraging what we know about the algorithm and knowing that we are training, hyper training the algorithm and actually using these advertorials to not only train the algorithm to convert, but to get more people like them and more people like them and more people like them. And that, with a properly set up CAPI with custom CAPI events, is a fantastic way to convert. Okay, so I feel like we have a lot here. Now I want okay. So now we have a thread that is trained in a direction for positioning that has legs, right? The bad guy are the omega 6s and the seed oils. Those are, but the symbols can be Crisco or any any seed oil product, just blurred or not blurred, and see if you get away with it. I do. My, I'm using words like kill. This kills mitochondria in some of my ads and copy and have zero problems. Okay. Now, here's the thing on the Newsmax thing. Newsmax is a right leaning website. So when we're thinking about archetypes, I can just go after everybody. Or what if we just went after people on the right and advertised on Newsmax, an advertorial on Newsmax that feels like native content on that platform? You want to be able to write and prompt and design specifically where you are running traffic, paid and free, paid and content based. Everything needs to be resonant. So that radio dial we talked about hitting 102.3 or 103.2, whatever it was, is possible, is probable, is likely, considering you're going to be able to connect with people's story, even if it's a story they didn't know they were telling until now. because you gave them the eyes to see what's going on with their food, with their chips. Now, oops. Okay, so now we're starting to get more refined in our positioning. And what you don't get in other videos I post is me just transparently going through this process without fast forwarding, without editing, or without really diving into the process of prompting for this purpose of positioning to get the positioning to be so apparent, so hitting you over the top of the head with a 2x4 that you can't escape it. If we look at the Groons, their copy when they're talking about pooping because of taking or using GLPs, it's not subtle, but it doesn't hit you over the head either. So they have a lot of money that they've left on the table, even though they just sold for $1.2 billion in an exit and getting acquired. And that company is an example of using positioning, but it's not necessarily copy that is so great. It's just well positioned so that the dial is as close to resonant or as close to being spot on the frequency people exist or tell the story so that conversions are high. So that ROAS is high, cart values, AOVs. So getting all of those metrics in line is literally being done right before your eyes. This is the process. It's not just, oh, Claude makes advertorials and can fully design sites now. I just need to type in a prompt and get magic. Wait, where are the magic prompts? Where are the magic prompts? The magic is in the context. That's what copy prompting is. So if you are not creating the context, you are not you yourself getting clear so that the AI is clear, guess what you're going to get? Something that doesn't convert. Something that's close, but no cigar, said Monica Lewinsky. Apparently, she didn't say that, if you remember. Okay. Now I'm going to add just a few pictures. Okay. Now we add some pictures. Why don't those work? Oh, they're all not. Why are you saving them like that? That doesn't make sense. Hold on one sec. I just need to upload a few more pictures. Let's got that. Awesome. Okay. Here. What the world needs now. All right, dude. Oh, come on, then. You would think that it would just save it as a normal image, but no. It needs to be super. I can't do it that way. So hold on one second. Let me just add a few images just so this looks impressive. Do, 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 do. Okay. I think those have. Wait. All right. Now, remember what I said about blind versus transparent. You can be blind, and we can use this advertorial as a way to build up curiosity and dopamine when they click, or we can be transparent and help them self identify. Both can be effective. Both need to be tested in multiple ways. We're going to do transparent right now. Oops. Did I press enter? I did. So this added specificity and used a brand name and it's saying it's too generic. Okay. So now let's just get some variants. Let's get some UX before we settle on an initial test, right? Because that's what this is, finding that initial test. I like number two. That's interesting. Number four is interesting. That has potential. And both of them could convert, which is just another example of why we UX test. Testing different pictures, that's going to make a difference too. Testing different design layouts, that's going to make a difference too, without moving any images or different copy. Then all the copy and images, all the variations of UX that you can create out of just this one piece is insane, because there are so many ways of saying this. We can hyperfixate on the bad guy. We can hyperfixate on why beef tallow, even when it's cooked in high heat, can actually be healthy. We can focus on dispelling the lobbied illusion that saturated fats clog the arteries faster. As we saw in the research, and we want to cite all of this, this causes less inflammation because of a non breakdown or a non degrading of the oil or the fat when it's cooked, when it's at high heat cooking. We can go to the initial lobbying, the smoking gun element. Okay. So let's say we wanted that. Okay. The McDonald's example is great because the chips taste like McDonald's French fries before 1990 when they used beef tallow. So it tastes like, it's like I as a kid, or like, I guess not as a kid, like as a 18, 19, 20-year old, I went through a McDonald's phase. I was never allowed to eat it, and I didn't because I respected my body at the same time. But I went through a phase of feeling like, oh, I survived this, I survived that, I can eat this, no problem. And I ate. I mean, this was in the 90s. So after they started using seed oils, but I got addicted to the flavor, and the chips really do taste like the better version of French fries. So you can say Mickey D's, you can say Burger King, whatever you can. That's another variable test that, these taste like Mickey D fries. These taste like the King's fries, right? So there's a lot of ways to go about that. And that's just another example of hyper positioning. And that hyper positioning is huge when it comes to being able to test effectively, be well outside the realm of generic, even if your copy is AI slop, because the positioning makes up for that. And people who repeat myself, who say, I've never seen AI copy convert in the wild. Well, Gruen's is all AI copy, and it's very generic. But because of the positioning, they got a 1.2 billion exit, and that's on top of obviously having a good ad budget and testing lots of UX variations, getting CAPI set up correctly, all the things that are happening behind the scenes, but still moving the needle, You just don't necessarily see it, which is one of the reasons why I've worked with so many people and partners over the years so that I can get that data, so I can see the reality. And, it's like the beginning of the year, I heard a lot of direct response marketers saying that using advertorials was dead. And I went into their companies and was like, not only is it alive and well, but it's actually more relevant than it's ever been because of this, of everything that I just said. So if you're a copywriter working with companies and they're like, oh, we never really had success with advertorials. Okay, how many did you test? Because we can beat that number probably today and have much more hyper positioned advertorials, much more likely to convert, and honestly, better looking, more functional. Oh, well, we need to get all of our tracking information. Okay, so paste it in, tell it what you need, and it sets it up perfectly almost every time. And sometimes you just need to do a few modifications so that attribution and all of your tracking is firing on all cylinders. And you're seeing that reported. You're seeing that attribution reported. So all of these things are not only easy, but can be done in minutes. And you just simply serve them the HTML file. If you're a business owner, buying a domain, getting all your tracking done, so you don't mess with your current domain, makes it super easy to take any of these advertorials with any positioning point and direct it to your regular landing page or your direct response lander. So there's lots of ways to get value out of this in terms of testing, UX testing, and dispelling any illusion that this is not effective. And the same process, it goes for quizzes and assessments, lead magnets, tripwires, webinars. All of these style bridge pages are easy to do, easy to upload, easy to test in minutes. Starting here. So let me pick something here. Not sure we're there yet. Again, I am exercising control. This is all the control that I need, though, in being able to copy prompt context train and become more aware of through the context training, which makes it a collaboration. As somebody who has worked with lots of different copywriters and business owners and affiliates over the years, collaborating has always been one of the top three keys in consistently and predictably converting. Think about that. I like headline five. So now I'm honing in. And again, this is just the initial. When you see how much UX potential there is, you're not ever like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's there's so many to do. And if you're a business owner, if you're an affiliate, this is a masturbatory dream to be able to test like this. If you're a copywriter, you're able to advocate and overproduce for your clients and look like a fucking superstar. Because when copywriters do this and submit it to their clients, you're helping your clients test faster and get more out of their budget. That's huge. If you want to add that to your reputation, this is how you do it. All right. So now we're getting our initial design. Now I realize we're almost an hour in, and this is the first time you're seeing me actually go for a design. Normally, when I do this, this takes me minutes because I go through the copy prompting so quickly. Everything that you just see, I normally do in about 5 minutes. And that's not an exaggeration. That's absolutely true. I have made tens of thousands of dollars from an advertorial that I did in less than 10 minutes. So, personally, so when you think about the potential of what you can do for yourself, what you can do for your clients, what you could do as an affiliate, what you can do in terms of, another example here would be creating an ebook like I created Dead Inside, or I created the advertorial ebook that I could sell for $8, or I can add this video and sell it for $47, not even worrying about copy prompting, membership, or any of that BS. Just straight up. Here it is. Go away. Oh, you want to give me more money for other things? Here's some upsells. So the ability to do that in the next hour is at my disposal. It's at your disposal. This is easy now, as long as you are taking the steps that I just demonstrated to create the context through copy prompting to get to the positioning. Now, it's normally started with mechanism. The mechanism behind this, though, is the absence of, not the addition. The mechanism is that beef tallow doesn't degrade when you cook it at high heats. Therefore, it doesn't oxidize and it doesn't cause the omega 6 inflammation that other chips do. And we can add a warning. These are delicious and you will want to overeat, but just like anything, moderation is key. So we turn that objection into a positive. So any objection, by the way, needs to be addressed. If there are big objections, address those objections head on and make them positives. Do not run away from them. They need to be explored. Because if you do not explore them, people are going to use that as resistance to purchase. And that resistance, if there's distinct layers of resistance to purchase by not addressing key objections. And knowing that a key objection is people have been educated in America that saturated fats are the devil. We're going toe to toe with that conversation. So, of course, there's going to be resistance. Now, as long as we can make the case that in moderation, these saturated fats can actually be healthy. We've taken that objection and we've turned it into a positive. Okay, so picture's too big, not enough charts, and no images or other images. Okay. So now we're in the business of refining our initial asset. Once we get to our initial asset, then we want to play around with different UX and get different versions of it. Okay. So different tops of real estate, maybe different pictures. Okay. Now let's say whatever it generates, we're good with. Let's just say. Okay. Let's see where we are. It's still going. Okay, so now we're getting on to an alternative prompt, and I'm not going to do what I would normally do in this case, which is get more of those first lines, more of those headlines specific to this conversation, because right now I'm dealing with a train thread. I have context that I'm going to be able to leverage in different ways. Yeah, Martin. It's great for skincare. I actually use a beef tallow skincare product right now. I'm testing it. I've tested a few of them, and the one I'm using right now is my favorite, except that it's caused a little bit more ingrown hair problems, but it's made my overall skin look much better. So I am looking for a, a product because I'm going to sell it as an affiliate. I am looking for a product that gives me all the results without the side effects. So I'm, going to use this and then, write down my shit. And I'm telling a real investigative journalism story about it so that by the time I've done it, you're going to see all these different talos that I've gone through, which is a true story to arrive at the one that I feel the best about, the one that also integrates into my routine beyond getting me the immediate results, helps me with my overall routine, which might include also facial cupping, how it's it adds, it's like a lubricant. It makes it so that the cupping doesn't grab my skin and stretch it, but smoothly glides on it so that it's moving the blood and the lymph and creating the results I want without any of the side effects that I don't. Just like any story, just like any product, just like any offer. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions? Because when you're sitting down after this to work on your product, what's your first question? What's your first prompt? What are you doing? Now, in this exact thread, my prompt started with I'm doing a class. I gave it the context of what I'm doing and why. So always give it the context. Then make sure you're clear on mechanism. Then make sure you're clear on new cause. Why this works, why everything else didn't. Then you make sure and anchor it to a deeper core. The mechanism, new cause needs to be integrated to the deeper core. Okay. So now with what we have, and by the way, just to finish that, deeper core, mechanism, new cause, those are the trifecta that will always help you get to the most effective positioning possible. Always. Okay. So there's things I like here visually, things I don't. I on a mobile, this is going to look better. On desktop, I'm not thrilled with it. Let's just say that I'm not totally thrilled with it. I want to do something with the top. So now we're just dealing with visuals, right? So I'm like, okay, the and also remember coming from the ad, what your full UX, your funnel UX, what that looks like. So what does the ad look like? Would this be a good start? I could see ads that would make this beginning effective. I can also be like, that's not going to be effective enough and say, I want to start here, or I want to start here, or I want to start here. Like I could start with the FDA let food companies poison you when you eat their potato chips, right? I could start right there, feed it that line, and make sure it's congruent with that in mind to see if that's going to turn the dial just enough to resonate. So when you are thinking about and auditing for yourself, is this going to be effective? Think of it in terms of the funnel UX. What is my ad? Where am I going after this to determine its efficacy? And then that's why we test different copy. That's why we test different design. That's why we go after different archetypes. It's like I'm going after parents. What if I want to go after people who have high blood pressure, high A1C, overweight, lots of visceral fat? The seed oils are actually adding to it more than saturated fats. Here's why. Again, the deeper core is helping me anchor the positioning. So now that positioning has legs that I can generate into a full advertorial. I can also just talk about, without adding any of the smoking gun conspiracy stuff, I can just talk about how these are pure ingredients, cooking chips the way that your grandmother did or your great grandmother did. What they called real food. What we call food now is fake. The body, the cells don't even know how to get nutrition from it. And so it malfunctions the entire body, the entire immune system, causing autoimmune effects. I could focus on how eating seed oil based chips will trigger autoimmune flares for people with autoimmune conditions. I have lupus and Sjogren's disease. Now, I don't necessarily want to talk about them by name, but I can say autoimmune conditions so that I'm not curing disease, even though this isn't a supplement. So I actually have more wiggle room there. So I could actually probably say it and get away with it compliantly just fine. And certainly we're testing. So you can see just in the context of this hour, how many different positioning points I could create for this same bag of chips that all have the ability to convert and need different UX testing to see what can convert the most. Now, let's say we run 3-3-3, three advertorials for the three different positioning points. Our main two UX alternatives. Let's say 3 out of those 9 end up converting. Because of how we tested, we now have 3 interstitial or bridge pages that are proving to work. Now we need to focus on the ad side to see what's going to get maximum impressions and clickage to that advertorial, knowing that if we use CAPI custom events right, let's say we're running it on Meta, we know that those events are honing in on the front end traffic, helping that front end traffic hit harder so that we're able to convert more. And by converting more, we're able to continuously expand the TAM, total addressable market, on the front end, which means not only are we helping avoid creative fatigue, which is an illusion oftentimes, but we have multiple ads that are scaling to multiple advertorials, creating the exponential profitability effect. That's how powerful this is. And you can do that in days, not weeks or months. Rinse and repeat. So when a month does go by, you can theoretically have tested what would normally take you a year. If that's not fast tracking results, I don't fucking know what is. The fact that you can do all of this now, and now we're getting to a design that I like, okay, do you see how much better this looks? From our, goddamn, from our original design, and why this is finally getting, now we need more pictures of the product, right? So, and I did add some, I think one, but now I need to add more pictures of the product so that the new symbol is getting underneath people's skin. I know that's something that needs to be there, and then I need to make sure the copy complements it. And that's it. Then we simply go over here to, this Netlify. There's GoDaddy uses different a different website. It's the exact same thing. But all you're doing is going here, taking your HTML file. Wait, did I do that right? Yeah. And then open it up. And then you would just simply buy a domain name or point your DNS to here, and you're good to go. You're testing. And you can do this all day long. That's all that it takes to get this hosted and ready to test. And then, if I'm an affiliate, this goes directly to the page, or maybe I create a page that I get approved by the company. And that's what I do. I make sure I get everything approved by the company. So if I'm running food, supplements, I know that the company isn't going to stop me when I'm profitable. And in fact, is going to do everything they can to support me, which is typically what they do. I get random emails. Hey, you're seeing you're getting good results. How can we support you? That's it. And then I can, hire some of the top TikTok shop UGCers, content creators, to test against my ads to see what makes the ads more effective. So now I've got an advertorial that I know is effective. What's going to make it even more effective with the right ads? Again, thinking in funnel UX and funnel conversions. And not just conversions, but making sure that everything I'm testing is hyper training the impressions I get on the ad side. Any questions, y'all? I'm going to leave it there. And if there are no questions, I appreciate those who have watched. And I do also appreciate anybody who does end up watching this from the group or as a product. Again, this is an example of creating a product that I can now create ads, an advertorial, maybe an assessment, maybe a quiz, and a lander to sell this, and then upsell the community, and upsell maybe group coaching, then maybe upsell one-on-one. Now I have a full funnel that's capable of doing 6 figures a month, all from this one product and an ebook. That's how we make money today. That is the new economy. And if you are not doing that, if you are not creating your own income, if you're a copywriter, you're going to be so fucked. And if you already are a business owner and affiliate, by increasing how effectively you test with these types of assets, you're going to be able to reach your goals in a month instead of a year. And that is literally what this means. By being able to test with this a level of precision and speed. There's never been a time in advertising history when this was possible for anybody to create a product or sell a product as an affiliate or drop shipping, buy stock and put it in a 3PL, a warehouse. You can do that as well so that you're increasing your profitability. But you can start as an affiliate so that you make sure when you're investing in stock that you're investing in stock that is going to sell. And you're almost eliminating all the risk in any sense of gambling. That's the power of this. All right, guys, I appreciate it. We're going to do more of these. So I will see you next time, and share this with anybody that you think would benefit. Appreciate it, guys. And thanks. Yep. Thanks.